Greetings from Cybertron. This is SoundJack here with the first episode of SoundJack Rambles, the series where I just talk about whatever I feel like, Transformers or not, and sometimes have guests. Like today we have Potter, who is the editor for all of the videos that are on this channel. Thank you very much for all of that. And today we are talking about Transformers The Last Night. Before we get talking about any of that, be warned, spoilers ahead if you actually care about getting spoiled for this movie at all. So, you have been warned.
Do you want to start at the beginning of the movie, or does the general concept discussion?
Yeah, let's sum it up, because that's one thing that needs to be defined.
Well, I mean, first of all, as you and I have said, this isn't just a movie with one plot. It's a movie with like 4 different plots. Yeah. All stuffed together.
Yeah. We begin recapping things with Optimus Prime having left Earth to find his creators. A new task force has been sent to hunt the Transformers. Chicago was a wasteland. And Mark Wahlberg goes and with Bumblebee to try to rescue some Transformers, because the Transformers are also just raining upon the Earth and they don't know why, even though Optimus has for like the past movies asked the Autobots to keep coming to Earth. But it's obviously not that, because something else is going afoot. And they find an old robot that kind of looks like a knight, and he gives Cade Yeager, the actual name of the guy, a sacred magical talisman thing that is significant somehow. We move on, we catch up. What the hell? They go back to the junkyard, where the Bumblebee and the other Autobots are hiding out. Prime gets to Cybertron and meets his creator, who is a Quintessa. We have a female villain in this movie. Yay, diversity. And she mind controls him into being Nemesis Prime to come to Earth to take the Staff of Merlin. Yes, because there's a lot of medieval stuff going on in this movie. The Staff of Merlin, because it was her staff that the Knights of Iacon stole, because she cannot be trusted with anything, and who are also responsible for that talisman. And Optimus Prime is sent to Earth. Megatron also is looking for this staff, and they contact the new human task force, including who is this? Josh Duhamel, who was, I forget the character's actual name, but the soldier guy from the first movie that has been in all the movies up until Age of Extinction, is now back for this one. And Megatron, in a very Suicide Squad-esque moment, bargains to have some of his Decepticons released to him.
Made no sense.
Made no sense.
No sense at all.
They're told where Mark Wahlberg is. They go hunt him down. While being hunted, a little robot called Cogman finds him and says, "You are needed, sir, urgently." And they, after evading the Decepticons and the Human Task Force, they go off to London. And we also meet our female protagonist, Vivian, who she plays Polo. She plays some Polo. She's got a lot of higher education. I forget exactly what, but a lot. Specifically studying in Oxford as a professor, as a doctorate or something, and studies history, and thinks Sir Arthur and Merlin are all bupkis, even though we saw them at the beginning of the movie. And then she's also taken to the castle because she's also significant, because we learn from Sir Edmund Burton, who is played by Anthony Hopkins, that she is needed because she is a direct descendant of Merlin, and Merlin staff was genetically coded to him, so only direct descendants can activate it, so they need to activate it to protect Earth from the incoming Cybertron. Yes, Cybertron is also coming to Earth because he's going to destroy the Earth, which is also Unicron, to rebuild itself because it has been very much destroyed. They get attacked. Eventually, they go find the ship that the Knights of Iacon came in on. They find the staff. Optimus Prime catches up to them and takes the staff. And then the Bumblebee fights him and then gets him out of his mind control. And then Megatron takes the staff from Optimus after his mind control has been erased. And Megatron has apparently been working with Quintessa this entire time without any direct knowledge that he had been before. And then Cybertron attempts to destroy the Earth, but the good guys come out in the end and win and beat it with a giant dragon. I think that sums about the plot pretty much. Oh, and then the Earth, and the Earth is, they still got to fix Earth and Cybertron because they're still in each other's orbits. So, fun times for the next movie. Oh, and then Quintessa, who we thought died, did not die, so she's coming back for the next movie. I think that kind of sums up the plot. If you haven't seen it, you probably don't understand what I'm talking about. If you have seen it, you probably don't know what I'm talking about.
An interesting thing is, that he's it said, why do you think they keep coming here? Why do you think they keep coming here? Well, they've been given reasons of the Allspark, the Sun Destroyer for the Energon.
Yeah.
The bringing Cybertron to Earth in the third one. The fourth one was, Age of Extinction, trying to kill all the Transformers, and now it's bringing Cybertron again. To say that this has been the theme and the plan all along, it hasn't been. Mm-hmm. The fact that Unicron is Earth, or is inside of Earth, is really, really cool, but they played it terribly. It's as a plot point.
They don't explain truly what Unicron is. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even remember if they mentioned what a Unicron is until I went to go see it the second time. I went to see it with my dad. I only did.
You saw it twice.
Yeah, I still saw it twice. But then I was able to see, they described Unicron in 3 words: Cybertron's mortal enemy, or Cybertron's ancient enemy. What does that mean? If you're a Transformers fan and you know what a Unicron is, that makes a lot more sense, and the plot and that part of the plot makes more sense. Why the Transformers want to destroy Unicron and Earth.
That scares me. And in the sense of I'm not someone who's fully versed in Transformers, but in the sense of seeing all the movies, reading some comics, seeing the TV show, the fact that they haven't fully explained it means they might butcher it.
Yeah.
They might butcher Unicron and do a whole Silver Surfer's version of Galactus on it. I think that, if you know what I mean by that. I think that they might not do it, and it's hard for them to reveal Unicron without killing all of Earth. It'd be hard for them to do that.
I mean Unicron's got his horns coming out of the Earth. That's Unicron
Well, yes,
which is something, but
still. the cartoon Unicron of them trying to defeat him and all of that, in its full form. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Although it'd be really cool. It'd be really cool if all of the Earth just died. Yeah. I'd be down for that in this series. Please. Not because I hate the Earth or whatever. It's just in this series, I think it would be a really cool direction for them to go, of having 5 to 500 Earthlings survive, and then in 7 and 8 them working with the Transformers off-world.
Well,
I think that'd be really cool.
8 and 9, because 6 is coming out next year, and that's
okay.
going to be the Bumblebee movie.
Like the
and
next
then,
2 movies of the main plot. Yeah.
Well, because they would still be on Earth for 7. I don't know why they're doing that. They're counting that as 7, but whatever. But that's the thing I would like to see, partly because it's why I like Transformers so much. It's because the robots are the characters I'm interested in. I want to get to know these giant 30-foot tall alien robots that transform into Earth vehicles. They're cool. That's cool. They're going to be cooler if they have personalities behind them. And most of the time they don't. This movie was somewhat better. They at least name-checked all of the Decepticons in the weird Suicide Squad moment.
Yeah, okay.
Which was cheap.
So, why I said, this movie is something with like 4 different plots. But, it has really 2 main plots. And that's discovering what the talisman is. And also them trying to fight off Cybertron from coming and killing Unicron.
Yeah. They
were too smashed together, mushed together. Some parts were too long. Some had like 0 explanation at all, and were very, very cut. I was joking earlier that this is the first Michael Bay film without a huge exploitation of women or a gargantuan amount of explosions. So it's kind of like Michael Bay's like, well, I can't use the women and the explosions, so I might as well just put nothing in there and just cut.
There are still a very reasonable amount of explosions, but yes, this movie is better than the other ones in terms of its sexism.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of robot fights either.
No.
They're not. Actually, they're like 2 or 3. Then there's like 2, and then there's the main one at the end.
Yeah.
Like, there's that main one at the end. But a lot of it is story-driven of trying to explain the Witwikis.
The Witwickens. The Witwickens. Witwiki, if you don't remember or aren't familiar and you were on this video for whatever reason,
Samuel Witwicky
was the main human ally of the Transformers for the first 3 films and took his name from the original cartoon. So they said that, and then they also borrowed a phrase that he used in the first film of never give up, never surrender. What was that? Was that it?
Yeah. That was it.
And then applied it to having been created by Sir Arthur himself and establishing the Order of the Witwickens in order to keep the history of the Transformers on Earth secret.
So it's a direct line of Merlin is the whole idea. And
the direct line, no.
Okay,
it's not exclusively Merlin, because a lot of people have been added into the family, and probably the 12 Knights and Merlin were all part of the Order of the Witwickens, where descendants come from.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Order of the Witwickens, all of them aren't descendants of Merlin necessarily, because they're the ones who protect the descendants of Merlin and their secrets.
Yeah.
So the Order of Witwickens. So, for example, Sam Witwicky couldn't pick up the staff
because he's not necessarily we don't know if he's a descendant.
We don't know if he's a descendant of Merlin.
He just took on the Order's name.
I saw a theory online that said that means Sam's dead, and that would explain so much. I'm like, sure, why not? Go kill Shia LaBeouf. Wait, he isn't dead. Shia, surprise! Transformers 10. But I think that. The little Easter egg of him appearing was nice.
Yeah.
It's something. There is so much in the Transformers universe. When you talk about plot holes and whatnot, it's more that things are just ignored. Like there's so many different times where they could easily say, hey, Cogman is a headmaster. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Unicron. Oh, what's Unicron? Oh, he's a giant robot that can kill everything. Oh, okay. It's like, hey, what's this talisman? Oh, it's a giant sword that can magically deflect a giant robot attacking you with their sword. Like, little sentence explanations of
also, apparently that was supposed to be Excalibur.
That makes Again, a sentence explanation would be nice.
That makes sense why all of the Knights of Iacon were like, oh, okay, we're going to listen to you now, Cade Yeager.
I figured that the talisman did that. I didn't know it was Excalibur. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the thing is that that's a perfect example of like if there was a sentence of explanation, then it would have made it so much simpler to the audience.
Yes.
So if you're in the well versed in the Transformers universe, not even you knew that was Excalibur.
No.
I feel like saying that it's to the hardcore fans is such a BS excuse, because then you're not making a good movie. You need to be able to appeal to a larger audience as well as the specific audience. Transformers has been full of these moments, especially 5, where it isn't necessarily things don't make sense. It's just that the sense isn't given, and then that all these fans are now. There's a reason why. What is it? The Transformers Guild, whatever.
The wiki.
The wiki.
Yeah, the wiki. The wiki was complaining about how they just had to make so many random pages for all of these random people that were mentioned to be the Order of the Witwickens, because like people like Harriet Tubman, Stephen Hawking. I'm trying to think. The Wright brothers. They've got to make all these pages about all of these people and they're all just one-line things. Well, this person is a member of the Order of the Witwickens. Mozart. Also, all of these random famous people in history are also knew the Transformers during their lives. That's a thing that's also just not touched upon.
That is very true. What I was more saying, it's very, very true. What I was more saying was that the.
And then there was also the comment about like this is stuff from the movies that could have used with extra novelization.
Yes, that's the point I was making.
Yes.
Yeah, it the fact that as well as the second part of the point, as the wiki was saying, and you've told me that the wiki is really, really powerful in the Transformers fandom.
Yeah,
in terms of determining what's canon and not canon.
Yeah, the wiki is the be all end all of any info you want to know about the Transformers.
Yeah,
and it's got basically everything.
Yeah, but there's so many like holes of information that after the movie, or if you saw it 5 times, you could probably like put together, or you can say, oh, okay, the reason why Quintessa wasn't in the first 4 movies is because she was in slumber. And then she woke up, and then Megatron realized she woke up, and that's why he partnered with her. And Optimus never knew that Unicron was there because it was a very, very ancient secret that none of the present, things knew about. And the reason why Allspark was sent to Earth is because it was attracted to Unicron. Like, things could have been explained. Like,
that's funny because literally at the bottom of the movie Megatron's page, they have to be like, Megatron's motives in this movie are not explained, but you can figure them out. Because like Nemesis Prime, Optimus Prime, he's got like the red scar on his face from Quintessa's mind control, so somehow he encountered Quintessa when he was still in his Galvatron body. And then, presumably, since she claims to be the Prime of Life, gave him a spark since he was just a mindless drone after being made by KSI into Galvatron, so he could take his name Megatron back, could transform normally, and also was how he knew about Unicron being Earth.
Wait, okay, but wasn't Megatron dead? No, okay, Galvatron for like 2 seconds. Like, just, not actually, but like, just put him aside, is what I mean, for 2 seconds. Megatron. What happened to him? I forget.
At the end of Dark of the Moon, Optimus Prime kicked out of him and Sentinel. Optimus literally single-handedly, he was missing an arm at the time, took his axe, chopped it into Megatron's head, pulled and ripped the head out of his torso. But then KSI, who was the organization that was trying to develop Transformium, which was how Cybertronians are, what Cybertronians are made off, into mass producing it. But they had his head, and apparently his mind was still active, so he was able to transfer his mind into the body of their Galvatron unit.
Now bringing Galvatron back in, then what happened to them?
They fought in China. Galvatron just said, "I'll be back, Optimus, for I am reborn." And then he just comes back in 5 with a new body looking at the horns that are coming out of the Earth.
Did he blast off Earth?
No, he just walked away.
So he must.
So
he must have then gone to. This is the shit that they make us figure out. Like it's two sentences of Quintessa came down to Earth, visited Megatron. Period. Quintessa gave Megatron a new body and mind controlled him. Period. Like it's not. I get it's not. You're just like, oh, if they just said that, it'd be so stupid. It's like, well, yes, but you could probably figure out some way.
Like, to an extent, yes, too much info dumping can be a bad thing. There's also certainly a point where it not having enough info dumped at you is also a bad thing.
You don't have any context.
There's a healthy medium, and honestly, I'd rather have more details than necessary than not having the details for the necessary bits of information.
And speaking of necessary, there's so many scenes in this movie that are so drawn out and unnecessary. Like the first emotional interaction between Cade and the girl who... Vivian. No, not Vivian.
No? Isabella.
There's, the first part of the movie where like they're interacting with Canopy and things like that, like all of that seemed to like flow really well, because and then model just disintegrated for the rest of the freaking movie.
They were doing world building. They were doing good world building. There were Transformers hidden all over the Earth. There's one task force designated to hunt all of them down, except for in Cuba, where it's a safe haven. And there's just these Transformers that are scared and hiding out where they can, so they're not murdered by humans.
Mm-hmm. I think that Isabella and Cade and Vivian and a lot of their interactions were just so unnecessarily long, and it's almost like the film had two different directors. And there were certain scenes in which they were well paced, they were nice, and then all of a sudden they were too long and too short, and they were wild out of control, and it literally seemed like it was almost watching a different movie. Like when I left the theater by the end of it, I even mentioned like, how many movies did I just watch? Like it felt so different. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know what different drugs Bay was taking each day, but it obviously showed in the film.
Yeah.
I also think that there are some people who said, who I were reading, and because I'm trying to, keep up with him here.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, right? That there is some worry that if they give too much information, the movie will just be longer and it'll just drag on. But my contrary point to that is that there are parts of this film that did drag on.
Yes.
And there are parts that were like, zip, 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 zip. And it's fine if things are, zippy, as long as they're given information to support them.
Yes.
And no information was given. So I'd rather have that information, if there were 30 seconds of more just verbal information in this movie, it would be 40 points higher probably on Rotten Tomatoes, because it would make so much more sense.
It's also the shortest of the movies currently.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It felt balls long.
I'm pretty sure it's by a matter of a couple of minutes, but I'm pretty sure this is actually the...
Are you serious?
The short...
It felt like half an hour longer at least.
Like, all of them run around 2.5 hours. This one, I think,
like
is
3.
like 2:15-ish.
Wow, man.
But, yeah. Yeah.
Alright, you want to talk about Bumblebee and the Junkians, or whatever the heck they're called?
Oh, yeah. Also, I learned I was actually wrong on that. It was just the trailer was... The trailer he appeared in was misleading. So, one of the characters in the film was a character called Day Trader. That was his actual name. I thought that was just a term they were calling him. Who I thought was a Junkian character from other Transformers medias called Wreck-Gar, because there was a trailer that came out before the movie came out that was labeled Wreck-Gar, and Day Trader appeared in it, and he basically functions kind of the same way. He's like a junk hoarder and has collections and stuff. But the thing he's talking about was the whole, specifically talking about Bumblebee and the Junkians, was Bumblebee, if you've seen some of the trailers, or if you've just seen the movie, which you probably, hopefully did, so we don't ruin it if you actually wanted to go into this movie unspoiled. If you wanted to pay money to go see this movie, was that Bumblebee now has the ability to fall apart and then over time reattach himself.
Be blasted apart.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah. The first instance we see Bumblebee in this movie is he's driving up to save Kate's butt from the TRF, and then he drives in, he transforms, he gets shot up, and then he just falls to pieces, and then he just magically reassembles himself together, which is an ability that exists.
2 sentences of explanation.
Which is an ability that has been seen in Transformers, but specifically the Junkians, who are a specific subset that are of Transformers that live on a different planet called Junk, and they're just made of junk. They just live in the junk, and they're just used to losing limbs and putting them back on and being like, oh, nothing happened. But that's never been established as an ability of Bumblebee before, and it's not been seen of any Transformers previously in these films. Certainly not to that extent. Like, I think Starscream got in Revenge of the Fallen, Starscream got his arm torn off by Prime, and then Megatron slapped him with it, and then Starscream was able to manually reattach it. But no, literally, it's like if a Lego set just fell on the ground and just magically assembled itself together. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. And Potter had a good theory that, like, perhaps that, like, it was an upgrade Cade gave him. And, like, cool, that would be cool if they explained that's what he did. But they don't. And Bumblebee just does that. Honestly, I'm partly convinced that it was purely so as Optimus could kick Bumblebee's skid plate and that action sequence, and then, like, Bumblebee could put his parts back together so he still looked complete at the end of the film. That's literally the only reason I could think of, and they actually decided, like, oh, let's explain this ability of his.
Well, just like a few words of, like, that upgrade worked out for you, hubby, from Mark Wahlberg would have been like it. I would have been satisfied with that.
Yes, but
no. Is there any chance that? But stupid question, that Bumblebee is a Junkian?
Probably not. I don't know Bumblebee's history. Okay, question: Bumblebee's history. What's the timeline? Okay, because another thing I was going to bring up is there's been tie-in comics published by IDW Publishing, who have the rights to making Transformers comics. So for the first 3 movies, they did a whole series of extra comics to tie into the movies to help explain the plot, and things that didn't make sense, make them make more sense, and add extra story and character and robot character development and whatnot.
Except for this doesn't make it make more sense.
But partly because of things that happened with Dark of the Moon and spoilers being leaked because of comics and a novel adaptation, Bay has been like, no, I don't want these things to exist, so my movie isn't spoiled. IDW hasn't been making comics anymore, which is honestly probably a good thing, because they're probably, the IDW stuff probably is no longer canon with the movies from what I can gather. Like, it could be canon, but they have to do a lot of hand waving to make it make sense, because in those it was established Bumblebee first arrived on Earth in 2003 to find the Allspark. During the movie, we learned he's been on Earth significantly longer than that, as he was part of an Allied forces raiding party on a Nazi fort, maybe Hitler's bunker. I'm pretty sure it was actually Hitler's bunker, which, by the way, they recorded at Winston Churchill's home, which Potter was here to ask his opinion on that, but Bumblebee's been on Earth a long time. So my question is, how long has Bumblebee been on Earth? Did he leave Earth at any point to find Optimus Prime and be like, oh, okay, look for the Allspark, I'll go back to Earth to find the Allspark, even though I've been here? Or has he been on Earth for, like, at least 70 years trying to find the Allspark? Or something, 70 or something years to find the Allspark, which I don't think makes sense. I don't know. Well, but I don't know what Bumblebee's history is. I don't know any of their histories. Also, that's the thing that's problematic, because both Ironhide and Optimus were seen when they go to the mansion with the round table. There's a bunch of images of other Transformers on Earth ancient times and previous times when interacting with people. Both Ironhide and Optimus Prime are seen in those images, though they were clearly seen arriving on Earth in 2007. Unless they left Earth and then came back when Bumblebee called them. I don't know. So much of this movie, there's so many interesting plot points in this movie that I find personally interesting that were just used horribly. Cool. Cybertronians have been around and worked with the Knights of the Knights of the Round Table. Interesting concept. Let's discuss that. Let's be involved with that. But then they use it incredibly poorly. Unicron is an amazing plot point. It is literally and figuratively the largest villain in all of Transformers, probably, because he's someone that wants to eat the entire universe. But they don't explain that. Quintessa is a very interesting character because the Quintessons in the original cartoon established that they were the creators of the Transformers. But later other continuities have been like, no, Primus, the Cybertron, which they don't even say that Primus is Cybertron at all. They just say Cybertron and its mortal enemy Unicron are that Primus that they exist, but they don't use them at all. Don't explain that he's going to try to devour the universe if he were to ever wake up. And Quintessa also being part of very new material, partly being based on a character called Quintus Prime, who was one of the original 13 Transformers, whose signature artifact is the Emberstone, which is the only other thing that has been able to give Cybertronian life existence besides the Allspark or whatever source Primus decides to work through. But they don't mention that. And like that, and again, all of these ideas are really cool to see in a story together, but none of it is properly explained, and I hate that about this movie. Also, how I mentioned before, robot character development is basically non-existent. Cogman was very good. I loved Cogman.
But the most important part about him wasn't even mentioned.
Yeah, it was barely mentioned.
Well, it was mentioned.
It was a throwaway line. The toy for Cogman has a full-on headmaster. He turns into a head for a licensed Aston Martin car body, which he was the one driving in the film. And there's another character, the character of Nitro Zeus. His toy has a removable head. And like that would have been cool if like after Cogman found Anthony Hopkins' character dead, that Nitro Zeus was going to come and taunt him, and then Cogman, because we've seen him be a badass and be able to take on a full-size Transformer, just take on Nitro Zeus, rip off his head, transform into a head mode, attach himself to Nitro Zeus's body, and then fly off and join the battle with the other guys. That would have been awesome. That would have been cool. And he would have been the character of the film that disappeared halfway through. Halfway through the climax. Barricade disappeared in the first movie for no apparent reason. Skids and Mudflap in Revenge of the Fallen, though I don't like to talk about them, disappeared halfway through the film. Disappeared at the end of the credits. Wheelie and Brains disappeared at the end of 3. Brains disappears halfway, even earlier in Age of Extinction. They rescue him from KSI, and he's no longer seen after that. Wheelie also makes a disappearing activity. Why are robots disappearing randomly and not explaining where they're going?
They're probably killed. Is the
but they're not.
Well, no, I mean, like they might. It's the whole idea that they're in disguise, so then they'll randomly go in disguise and then come out. But then again, if all of Cybertron's coming, why is Barricade not there in 3? You know. Well,
Barricade didn't disappear in 3. He looked like he was killed. Barricade is just the character that keeps coming back from the dead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he was in 3. He wasn't in 2.
He was in 1 and then disappeared during the highway chase.
He wasn't in 4, was he?
He was not.
And then he was in 5. So he was in 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah.
There was no reason why he was in 2. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No. Like, literally, in the first movie, all of the Decepticons are driving down the highway, and then Bone Crusher transforms to attack Optimus Prime, and then Barricade is never seen again. Some comic adaptations say that with the earlier versions of scripts, that Barricade was supposed to attack Optimus Prime after that, and then get killed.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen, and then so they were able to bring Barricade back for 3 for whatever limited appearance he had in that film. Then he supposedly got killed by humans, but I guess he survived that and got a new, very nice looking body. And then he also disappears, though he can't fly, to join the Decepticons on Cybertron. So,
well, going back to that Suicide Squad thing, if you haven't talked about it,
I haven't. No.
I did find it a funny moment because it was one of those things where while watching after the movie, I'm like, that was so unnecessary and stupid.
Yeah.
But trying to play off a trope that's being so overplayed these days. But at the time, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like, this team's going to mean a lot. There's going to be a lot of character development. It's going to be like what 343 claimed Halo 5 was going to be, of the different perspectives of even possibly of like 717 and Sierra 117 and Spartan Locke. And it's going to be Bumblebee and Megatron, and then eventually Optimus Prime in there. But they lasted like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then they took like 10 minutes to do the scene to introduce them. And while they were doing it, there was the one funny moment where like Megatron's like, and people are like, oh no, we can't do it. Megatron's like, I'll kill you. And he's like, okay, fine. And at some point, Josh Duhamel is like, no, man, there are limits. We're not, letting this guy out.
Yeah.
And Megatron just keeps going. Like,
Pick again.
Okay. All right, fine.
Like, he recognizes that I was pushing my luck with that.
Yeah, all right,
And here's
like shooting for gold, hoping for silver sort of thing.
And here's the best part. Here's the best part about that. All of the other that was the one Decepticon that was not picked. All the other Decepticons that were picked appeared in other parts of the film and did other things. Mm-hmm. That guy, Berserker, has the most Decepticon merchandise in the toy lines for this movie besides Megatron.
Why?
Maybe Barricade has a couple. Maybe Barricade can compete, but I think Berserker has more than any other Decepticon.
What is Berserker's form?
He's just flat out based on the body of he wasn't even called out in the movie, but Dark of the Moon Crankcase. There'll probably be an image here for people to just see. And also, so Potter can learn what he looked like. He turned into one of the he was one of the 3 SUV guys, but he had like the giant like pincer claws on the back
one
of
of the 3 SUVs that were chasing down
Sentinel
and
Bumblebee.
And okay.
Yeah, and then there was the Mexican standoff scene with Ironhide and Sideswipe and the
right, and they're saying they're going to put their weapons down, and then the other gun.
He just basically looks like one of them, but he's just looks like Crankcase, but he's just got a different name.
Gotcha.
I don't know. Also, Crankcase was definitely dead after that point, because there was a lot of model reusing in this movie. For instances, because they've got a lot of robots that he killed off very quickly, so they're like, let's save money. Let's save money on designing new robots and reuse old robots that we decided to kill off in like 20 seconds after their introduction.
It's almost like they're slightly different universes.
What do you mean?
Like, it's almost like if you're looking at like one reality of one, and then 2 is like here, and so it's like 2 is like here, and then there's 3, and then there's 4, and there's 5. Like, it's like different branches of reality. Like, what if Barricade wasn't killed? Like, what if, like, it asks some very small, minor questions, rather than, like, big questions of, like, what if the Fallen wasn't killed? It's more of, like, what if, Barricade magically disappeared for 2 movies,
Yeah.
Yeah. That, it just kind of seems like it's different.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense for them, like, to have multiple Transformers based off the same body because they're machines. So like there's probably they probably didn't break the mold after they were originally created. But sometimes it's just lazy. Like Berserker was fairly lazy. It was just a straight up repurposing, like Onslaught in the movie. Like he was based off the character of Long Haul from Revenge of the Fallen, but he also was transformed into a completely different vehicle. Canopy actually is also based off on the same body type, but you can't tell because they redid him enough to make him somewhat distinct.
Yeah.
Which, that kind of stuff, that's cool. The Berserker thing was like lazy, and they're just... why is Berserker getting so much attention?
Well, you know, it might be something where he comes and does something really big in 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe.
6 being the Bumblebee movie.
Yeah. Which is supposed to take place in the 80s.
I love that Volkswagen Beetle one. Who was that? Who was the Volkswagen Beetle?
Bumblebee.
No.
No?
He was the Jeep. Who was the one of the Suicide Squad-esque?
Oh! Oh, you mean he was a Volkswagen bus.
Oh, what did I say? Beetle?
Yeah, Beetle.
Sorry.
That's why I thought you were talking about Bumblebee. Volkswagen
no.
bus. His name was Dreadbot. He was also based off of one of the SUV guys.
Okay.
He was based off the other humanoid run who was called Crowbar. But they at least did him differently by giving him, like, parts to make him look like he transformed into a rusted VW bus. And that would have been cool as a toy. Would have not had a VW bus. That would have been fun. That would have been a fun figure.
It's like ironic, you know, like if you asked someone like 40 years ago if they would want a VW bus, you'd be like, ew, no. But now it's like, yes! like do it. That's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
Unless you're like 5. But even then.
Yeah.
I'd have a VW bus transfer. Can you look it up if there is one?
There isn't.
Oh, that's
There's been no VW bus.
the fact that you know that. I just
if they exist, they are in a very obscure section of the Transformers. But I would be pretty. There's at the very least no toy version of a VW bus.
Okay.
Transformer.
That's so disappointing.
It is.
I think it would sell really well.
It would. It would be fun.
By the way, Optimus Prime needs a new form. Because like, you know, but even Bumblebee upgraded his form, and he keeps upgrading the form as, you know, like a contract with Mustang, you know.
Chevy.
What else?
Mustang.
Yeah,
He's a Camaro. It's a Ford Mustang and a Chevy Camaro.
Oh, I thought he was a Mustang.
No.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand? When you see a yellow and black car going around, it's probably a Camaro. I'll give it to you that they look very similar.
Oh yeah, no,
but
it's a Camaro.
But yeah.
Anyway, the point being that he updates his form, everything. Optimus has not updated his form really since he first transformed.
Well, he had the two different bodies in Age of Extinction.
The hell did he have in Age of Extinction?
Well, the first 3 movies, he was the more squared long nosed truck model, and then at the start of Age of Extinction, he took on a rusted flat nosed truck form to homage his G1 self, and then he took on the really duper super beefed up tractor trailer truck that now has him transform in a much more sleeker body.
No, I mean the one where he's like exiting the, you know, explosion and destruction at like the very end of 5 is kind of like a.
It's the same one as 4. I'll give that, but granted, also Optimus wouldn't have had the chance to rescan at any point in this movie since he was off world.
Very true.
Since he was off world for most of it. If he came back to Earth and had a random new Earth-based form, I would have been very upset.
Okay, no, you're right. But I more mean like less in this movie and more like in 4 or 3. You know, like if you're driving away from an explosion, maybe don't pick something that can only go like 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that one, you know, we don't know about Cybertronian tech in terms of the Transformer of like if he can make something that normally goes 40 miles an hour go 400.
Well,
I don't know. But
not necessarily, like, it's not been confirmed outright, but I think it's been implied for the most part, because like at the beginning of Transformers, one of the big things was like, wow, this is a really souped up engine for a 67 Camaro. And also Starscream flying off into outer space, which is not something F-22 Raptors can do. So assumptions are Transformers have extended abilities beyond the Earth form they scanned. Mm-hmm. But...
well, they're made of different metal, too.
Yeah, they're different metal. They have greater limits than their original vehicles would have. But So presumably Optimus Prime can drive faster than the actual truck he's based off of. But when he was driving out of the explosion, it did look pretty slow.
Yeah, it was like a woo, yeah. Really? Like you're really gonna drive 50 miles an hour away from that planet falling into ours? Like,
yeah. Also, something I want to complain. Also continuity error. Dark of the Moon, we saw Cybertron partly in Earth's orbit. It was massive. It was so much larger than the Earth. In this movie, it maybe is the size of Earth's moon.
Well, I think that it changed form. Because if you remember from what I remember from 3, in 3 it was just like a giant, like imagine one of those things on the playground, like the
jungle gym.
The jungle gyms.
It's just like a giant honeycomb structure.
It's just a giant honeycomb structure. But in this one, it has like a central core and has these like mushroom-like extensions that have the honeycombs on top that like move independently from each other.
Yeah.
And it seems like the planet transformed in itself.
But here's the thing, with that, from when I because that was the thing I was questioning. Like, is it just that fact that like a lot of Cybertron just fell off, and then like when it reformats, it's just going to be smaller? No, from what I was able to tell, if it were like it didn't lose that much. It couldn't have lost that much, and when it reformed, and like the extensions weren't like significantly long. They were like within reasonably short distance. So, and also the size, again, the difference between like Earth's moon-ish size versus something. I'm bad at judging sizes with spheres, like maybe 5 times larger than the Earth. There's something wrong with that.
Well, how big is Cybertron usually in comparison to Earth?
Usually you don't see.
Well, okay, but like in terms of all the lore, all the comic, not necessarily in this universe.
Yeah.
But in all of the different 16 main Transformers universes, you said something
9.
like that.
9.
I thought you said like 16.
No.
9.
There are the 9 pillar realities.
Oh, sorry, 9 pillar realities, but then there were some other minor ones.
Yes.
That you mentioned. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that, how big? Do they ever mention like how big Cybertron is?
The only time it's been like an actual general size description has been given was in the original Marvel comics, and it described it about being the size of Saturn. Most continuities have tended to shy away from that large, because also the fact that like the thing is, most versions of Cybertron you can see buildings from outer space. You can see buildings on Cybertron from outer space. So
because it's got to be bigger because the Transformers.
Yeah, they're got to be bigger. So like if it was our moon size, that would kind of make sense. Also, I believe for the 1986 animated movie, there was a rough scale guide for Unicron, Cybertron, and Earth, and in that, Cybertron was kind of depicted about Earth-moon size-ish. But also the thing is, humans have gone to Cybertron, and Cybertron tends to have an Earth-like gravity, which is also a problem.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
What if that wasn't Cybertron? Like, what if that wasn't coming in 5? Newbie point here. If you talk about, like, Cybertron in its entirety, like, what if this was, like, a part of Cybertron? And the reason why I say that is because he lands on Cybertron in the beginning of 5. Mm-hmm. And what we see is completely different than the jungle gym-like structure in 3. So what I'm thinking is that was just a part of Cybertron that he landed on. Mm-hmm. Then that part, like, went and took off from Cybertron. It went to Earth, because that would explain the size. That would explain the visual difference, and that would explain the visual difference in terms of the outside appearance as well as the visual, like in the sense of it's not honeycombed all the way through.
Yeah.
And then it would also explain the differences in the arms.
The thing is, when Optimus Prime does land on Cybertron, you see exactly what you see when it comes to Earth.
What?
Like when you do get a visual of Cybertron as Optimus Prime is approaching it, if I recall correctly, and it looks exactly what it does when it's approaching Earth.
Well, I mean,
so it's just, you know what? It would look cooler if it was smaller.
Well, your
like the only
before
like
of shedding a few pounds makes sense.
Shedding a few pounds, shedding a few planets.
Well, yeah, but like in the sense of Quintessa awakens and has her own like center of the planet. It's like, I don't need this junk man, and tells us to decide.
Yeah. Two different things. One, for like you're part of Cybertron. That makes me think that possibly it could be one of Cybertron's moons. Because Cybertron has also been established to having moons in other continuities, but all of the Transformers refer to it as if it is Cybertron itself.
Well, okay. Here's a question: what is Cybertron then? Because if Cybertron is this energy or this being of being in the center of a planet, then where Cybertron is can change. For example. An airplane is just an airplane, but when the president gets on it, it's Air Force One.
Yeah.
So if there is I ask, is there some sort of entity that makes Cybertron that can leave and then that place no longer be Cybertron and go somewhere else and that place be Cybertron?
Theoretically, but that has not been properly established in this universe.
Okay. Has it in others?
Yeah. I mean, Primus, the creator of the Transformers, being Cybertron itself, is basically like 90-ish% of the universes. It doesn't exist in the original cartoon purely because that didn't establish that creation mythos. It established that the Transformers were created by quintessons, and also the animated cartoon continuity because the creator of that series was just like, I don't particularly like Primus mythos. I just want this mystical artifact to be the reason Transformers exist. Nothing has ever shown Primus leaving Cybertron, though. It's just his physical form. However, that can kind of go into a kind of a theory I've got going on that might be plot for 7. Mm-hmm. And it involves Quintessa as well.
Okay.
So, Quintessa is the Great Deceiver, yes?
Yeah.
And she wants to rebuild Cybertron by killing Unicron, yeah? What if she's lying about that? What if she doesn't want to kill Unicron to rebuild Cybertron? What if she's destroying the Earth in order to build a new body for Unicron?
But Earth is Unicron.
Yeah, but what if that body's not a good body for him because he's trapped within it? Like, instead of the Earth, like him actually being able to transform out of the Earth, he's just trapped in the Earth.
Well, it would make sense in a way because that little thing of him not being in control of his body or using it is because the horns moved with the continents.
Yeah. And
instead of him being able to have control of them, which I don't get.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like
the horns would presumably be deep enough that it wouldn't be affected by continental drift.
Wouldn't the continents move with? And by the way, if continents are moving, okay, is he doing that? Or is he deep enough in the Earth that the plates can move over him? Because all of the plates are dependent, and plate movement, tectonic movement, on the magma underneath. So, like what?
There's been one other series that has established that Unicron is Earth. That was the Transformers Prime cartoon. And in that, what we had believed to be magma was actually the blood of Unicron himself.
No. Like what? Like what? Like how do they explain volcanoes? I'm so confused.
Like volcanoes still happen.
Yeah.
It's
is
just
that
it's just his blood. It just.
How would they not detect that? Like, and all the scientists ever, like they look at obsidian or they look at lava, and they take it in for testing. How could they not see that something's up? Like, does he just run on liquid rock? I'm confused.
Maybe, I don't know. We're talking about God. We're talking about robot gods from the beginning of time.
I just thought of the horns, but the horns. But like they explain somewhat of the poles, and the heat source is Unicron. Okay, fine. But the Earth needs more than just a heat source at the beginning, at the center of it. It needs a certain kind of heat source in the center of it. It needs the magma and the inner and outer cores and the juicy, not juicy because it's metal center. Yeah. Volcanoes, man.
I don't know. Back to yeah, volcanoes are cool. What? Back to the Quintessa.
Yeah, sorry, your theory
thing, because I've also been kind of thinking of this because she's also been taking a lot of things from the different 13 primes. I think I might have mentioned this briefly earlier. If you don't know, the 13 primes were the original 13 Transformers created by Primus, and all of them had a different aspect. Quintessa takes a few ideas from a few of them. The main one she was based on physically was Quintus Prime, who created the Quintessons, and they share similar names, and was also able to grant life without the Allspark. She's also a female, and nominally the only female in the primes is Solus Prime. Other universes have it has been established there's probably like a minor offshot universe that like other versions of the primes are female, but they're not properly explored.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
I think I asked you before. I thought when I asked you about gender and sex in the Transformers universe, you said that certain Transformers chose to assign themselves to certain genders due to interactions with Earth. Yeah. But it seems that there were males and females, specifically males and females, before interaction with Earth.
I should have probably clarified on that. That's the case sometimes.
But Transformers don't.
They don't reproduce sexually. There's no reason
through sex.
There's no reason for them to have things that look like boobs. There's no reason for them to have luscious lips, but they do, and I don't know. And that is a very excellent point.
Pisses me off, man.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we have to objectify metal now? Like, what? Why?
I don't know.
Like, what?
Okay. The main thing I'll give.
Give it a female assignment. Therefore, we can objectify him and make a few more male, man.
The main thing is explanation of why it's a thing is not good. For storytelling perspective, it's a good thing because again, these are supposed
relatability. Yeah.
Well, for relatability and also proper gender representation because. Granted, they should be a genderless race, but before females were properly introduced into Transformers, we assumed all the Transformers were male, nonetheless.
All the Transformers were male in the first one, right?
Yeah. Well, like in the original cartoon, before
in the second one, they weren't.
No, but there were only like 3 of them that weren't.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the original cartoon.
In the original cartoon, were all of them male?
Yes. Hasbro, there was one, when they were originally creating the characters, one guy came up and was like, hey, are any of these female? And I'm like, no, they're all guys. This is a boys' toy line. So, it was Hasbro in the 80s. It was the 80s.
No, yeah.
Yeah. But
when we make a female Transformer, we have to make her slim, have big boobs for no reason.
And pink.
Or light blue. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But then in the cartoon, there was one episode that introduced a handful of non-toy based female Transformers, cementing their genders in Transformers. But, and I mean, like, good, again, now, since it's been established, it's good for gender representation to be like, yeah, let's have a lot of female characters, because because before really recently, when a female Transformer appeared, it was basically a novelty.
Yeah.
They were just so rare and so...
See, that's my problem, is that I don't have a problem with Transformers assigning themselves to a gender given their choice. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they are then assigned to a gender and given human characteristics for reasons of objectification and for novelty rather than for any use.
Yeah.
There's no,
like a lot of them have been good characters, but they are
I'm sure.
But for early on they were all
very
dominantly
much for female Transformers.
Skinny, smaller than the others.
Metal chest plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Black Arachnia was a bad case of that, but it's a really cool character.
Black what?
Black Arachnia. She was in the Beast Wars.
Oh, okay.
She was very, very sexually designed.
Ah, gotcha.
Anyway, back on track to this movie.
Spider characters usually are, man.
Yeah.
Black Widow, Spider-Woman.
Well, not the male ones, because there was a male spider guy in that series as well called Tarantula.
Spider-Woman, yeah. Tarantula, thank you. She's a villain in DC.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she's really screwed up. Like,
yeah.
We don't need to get into that. Go ahead.
Anyway, also being female, and then also she is the Great Deceiver, which has been established to be the trait of Liege Maximo, again, another one of the primes. So my thought is, if she's already taken all of those aspects, why can't she also be a servant of Unicron, just like the Fallen? Granted, the Fallen has already been a thing, but he's never properly been established to have any ties with Unicron. Though, looking back on it, it would make sense why, because they had a code, because the other primes in those movies, and there was only 7 of them, so she could totally still be one of the primes. I don't know how that works anymore. Anyway, Revenge of the Fallen, they had a code, like they needed to harvest suns to get Energon, and they had like a code of not on worlds already with life. And then the Fallen for our world was like, screw that, I'm going to kill these things. But it might have made more sense if he found Unicron here, and Unicron was like, hey, if you kill this planet, I'm going to reward you or something. Somehow.
Well...
Which is what, and then from there it takes the name, the Fallen.
He wants a shiitake mushroom load of Energon, but they don't really give a good reason.
No.
They give a reason of hatchlings.
Yeah.
In order to expand, but they don't give a reason. Again, a sentence explanation of we're doing this because of our leader, or we're doing this because of that. Like, they didn't even need to mention Unicron.
No. Like, technically, I guess it was implied that, like, they need Energon because they need to live, but obviously they haven't had Energon on... They haven't established they've had Energon on Earth and have been subsisting pretty well, despite that, probably like oil and whatnot and other energy sources that they've been able to adapt into their bodies.
Okay.
Without direct use of Energon. Because that was the plot of the original cartoon. Megatron was stealing energy sources from Earth to convert into Energon to use to power up to take back to Cybertron, because they destroyed all the Energon with their 4 million year long war. 5 million year long war at that point, in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and one more quick thing with Quintessa possibly being with Unicron. The Infernocons, Infernicus. If you were to see, if looking at Unicron with his giant devil horns and how other minions and servants of Unicron have looked, those look very much like Unicron minions. Those look like minions of Unicron, hands down. Is that going to be a thing? I don't know. Would it be interesting if that happened? Yeah. That's just my thought about it. But I have to talk about things that I think would be cool because, oh my god, what was with this movie?
What?
What was with this movie? What happened with this movie? Why was this a bad movie? This was not a well
like an
done
overview?
movie.
No.
I'm not. Well, I got more things to discuss.
Yeah.
I'm just still like, I have to talk about other things that I think could be good about this movie because this movie was a bad movie.
Well, why don't we go from the submarine on?
Well, actually, I remember the thing I just wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
That from earlier in the movie.
Please.
The guy Cade finds at the beginning. The knight that gives him the talisman.
Yeah.
Where
did he come from?
Wait, hold
on.
Thank you.
They have distracted me with the fact that the editing was so horrific, and the plot made no sense, and these Transformers came from here and there. That escaped me. Where the heck?
So where did he come from?
Where did he go? Where did he come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Yeah. Where did he come from? He presumed by his design, he looks like he would be one of the Knights of Iacon, right? You'd agree with that, right? With his design, you'd think he might be one of the Knights of Iacon, right?
Sure. I don't know who those are. I'm sorry.
The guys that turn into the giant robot dragon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they are. That's like their official name, the Knights of Iacon.
Which, by the way, there were 12 of them that turned into that thing.
Yeah.
And yet 12 of them weren't alive anymore, and yet it could still turn into that thing. So is it something where it just gets, smaller the less of them there are? Or if they're not...
Because...
Is it like that it only needs 8 of them, and then the other 4 go and do other things?
I have no idea. I don't know.
That would make a great toy.
I'm so sad.
What's that thing called?
Dragon Storm. There is going to be a toy of it. It's only going to be made out of 2 of them, but it still looks really good.
That's stupid.
Okay, if they were to make one out of all 12 of them,
either
they'd have to make a humongous Dragon Storm, or they'd all be very tiny.
Just mini ones.
Yeah, I like my.
No, not Magic the Gathering.
I like them. I like my toy robots being in somewhat relative scale to each other.
Toy.
Even though the Infernicus figure is going to be much smaller than all of the other figures, but I would still like that because
this thing.
Yeah, but
this is Transformer World 2005.
That's the name of the website that the information is on.
Why?
I guess they established in 2005. Oh, also, no. I know why. Because the 86 cartoon established that it was taking place in the year 2005, so 2005 kind of has a significant futuristic year number in Transformers.
This thing?
Yes.
Alright, I'll show it right
here.
And as you can see, there are the 3 heads, 1, 2, 3. There's also, the knight head, in there.
Well, that's when you stand it up. That is an issue. That is just a thing on toys. If you look underneath it, you're gonna find robot parts, visible head syndrome.
But if you stand it up, it's kind of like I'm a knight.
Yeah,
just chilling here.
Yeah,
that's like a kangaroo pouch.
Yeah, they could have covered that one up a little better. But that's gonna be a really cool figure. But back to the first guy, the first Knight of Iacon. So he was one of the Knights of Iacon. So was he supposed to be one of the Knights of Iacon? Was he just someone that worked with them? How did he have the talisman? How was he... If he was going to die there, how was the talisman supposed to get to anyone?
Correct me if I'm wrong. The whole idea before the talisman reached Earth was when the talisman reached Earth, it will have begun.
Yeah.
And that it is Cybertron coming to Earth.
Yes.
But yet Cybertron already did come to Earth. It's almost like 3...
Shouldn't have happened?
Well...
Or
yes. 3 and 4. But anyway,
well, 2.
Well, I would say that 3 was very unexpected in a lot of different ways. Because Sentinel's we need to do this now. We need to, this whole, forget everything you've ever heard, man. We need to do this now. We need to get this here. But if, let's just take 3 out of the picture. All of this kind of leads up to Cybertron coming in.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like something was triggered.
Yeah.
That there's like a catalyst that we're missing between 4 and 5, or even before 4, in which Quintessa awakens and the talisman gets to Earth, wherever it was before, because it was on Earth, and then it for some unknown reason left, and then came back. And so it almost seems like there was a trigger.
If it left Earth, they don't even explain if it actually left Earth.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
like
he
was in
a spaceship that was flying around Earth,
trying to find the chosen one. Maybe that's what was up. He was trying to find the chosen one. He got shot down, and then Cade miraculously stumbled upon him, and then that night was able to pass off the talisman to Cade.
He didn't even crash during the whole Canopy dying thing. He was already there.
Yeah, he was already crashed.
And then he awoke when Cade...
No, when the kids were knocking on his thing.
Right.
And then Cade was trying to save him, but then Cade was like, nah, I can't save you.
Yeah.
I can't But the thing was, I saw it again, and then when the talisman was crawling over to Cade, that night dude was conscious. His eyes were lit up, and he was seeing the talisman go over to him. Was the talisman trying to keep him alive so as he could pass it on? Or was he just sitting there for a long time just waiting to die? Because Cade probably could have saved those wounds, or...
It's like I want it to make sense, but it doesn't.
Because the thing with Transformers is that's an established thing, is they can go into stasis lock if they take a severe enough damage, so they can wait around for one of their allies to come fix them. But no. That was just confusing.
Again, a few sentences of description would have fixed all of this.
Right.
There was some catalyst which this guy, somehow injured, needed to deliver the talisman. Yeah. Then the talisman found Cade, because it was specifically Cade that this talisman needed to go to.
Because he was chased. Because we had to stop the movie for a minute and a half to talk about how chased Cade is.
Poor Mark Wahlberg.
Anyway.
Poor Mark Wahlberg. It's another instance of laziness. Yeah. And it's something that fans are going to get tired of, and already have been tired of.
Oh, this movie is doing horribly compared to the others.
Yeah, and there's certain arrogance that I from an outsider's perspective that I see with these. That, no matter what, everyone's going to come see it. Because even though it has the lowest rating, it's the highest grossing of all the Transformers movies. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
which one?
This one, 5. It's the highest grossing of all of them, isn't it?
No.
I thought it was the highest grossing. Well, was that internationally, maybe? It does well internationally.
It does well internationally. That's the thing. China likes it. And that was the opening weekend.
It makes us look stupid.
And that might have been the opening weekend. It was the international money was the best. Had the best opening. The opening weekend had the best international revenue, I believe, for an opening weekend. Because in America, it did crap poor. It did scrap poor in America. Opening weekend, and in China, it had a higher growth, had a higher opening weekend than Age of Extinction.
Revenge of the Fallen had the highest.
Yeah, Revenge of the Fallen had the overall highest.
I was like so wrong.
Monetary gross. Because that is definitely the worst of the films, because it has to be the worst of the films because it was written during that writer's strike, so all of the writing was just even worse than everything else.
What was?
Revenge of the Fallen. It was written during there was the 2008 writer's strike, and there was.
Yeah. That was a pretty good movie, Revenge of the Fallen.
When was the last time you saw that movie?
Oh, a few months ago.
Oh.
Why?
You liked it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thought it was alright.
Okay.
I mean,
Michael Bay doesn't like that one even.
Hold on. Transformers.
But
Rotten Tomatoes.
But for the most part, Transformer fans within the fandom, from what I've experienced, tend to say Revenge of the Fallen is the poorest of them all. But
why?
Because the plot holes are worse there. This is also the one that had. It might also be coming off of the first Transformers one, Because that one was good. That one was really good.
The first Transformers.
And there was also
an 85% audience score, but a 57%.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, it featured things like robots farting fire and Devastator having testicles.
That was funny. Maybe I just
and you sure, if they can have boobs, why don't they have testicles?
Okay, but like no. That was different. That was almost like a coincidental thing of the two cranes happening to meet.
But that's the problem. There's only one crane that only has one wrecking ball counterweight. That robot should not have two wrecking balls.
Okay,
it
but
should only have one.
That's an instance in which they're like making a really, really cheap dick joke.
Also,
or testicle joke.
It is all.
But you know that's different than a completely objectification, unnecessarily sex assigning.
I'll give you that.
All of that. That's like a little cheap joke that they did that doesn't make sense because only one of them had one of the crane balls.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Also, if anything, he should have had his testicles under his armpit because the crane made up his left arm.
It's Transformers biology, man.
I don't.
That's something else. No.
I don't know. I don't understand it sometimes. This has gone into weird places.
Yeah. Why don't we go back to Quintessa or some shit?
I don't know. What the hell were we? Oh, gross and making money.
Yeah.
No. This film's just doing poor. This is the film where people, like you were talking about the arrogance of the fan, like, oh, everyone's going to come out anyway. Because they have.
Yeah.
They have come out in significantly large numbers. Like, it kind of, I can't remember. I think it dropped off for Dark of the Moon and then came back up for Age of Extinctions. But now this one is doing really poorly. And this one can send a message.
Age of Extinction wasn't bad in the box office. It went Dark of the Moon. It went. I had it.
Yeah, no, Age of Extinction was better than Dark of the Moon. If I recall correctly.
No. Revenge of the Fallen was $402 million. Dark of the Moon was $352. Transformers was $319. Age of Extinction was $245.
Oh, I apologize.
It
might also be
$114 was $5, and then there's Transformers the movie, which was $5 million or almost $6 million. Now World.
Oh, that was the original cartoon movie.
Yeah, World adjusted. Dark of the Moon, 1.1 to 3.8 billion.
Yeah.
Age of Extinction, 1.104.
Right, it was Age of Extinction.
And then Revenge of the Fallen at 836 million, Transformers 709 million, Last Night 453 million, and 5.8 for Transformers movie because I think it only was domestically released. The
original movie is basically a cult classic.
Okay.
Is one of those cult classic things. Because no kid wanted to go see it. The original cartoon was like, oh, all of these robots are shooting each other, but it's okay because they're all going to live. And then the first 10 minutes of the film, all the Autobots are dead. You see one of them have smoke come out of their mouth.
When is this?
The original cartoon movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then Optimus Prime is dead.
Dun, dun, dun.
And no 10-year-old kid expects it, and parents are leaving the theater with their crying kids to go home to write letters to Hasbro about, like, why did you kill Optimus Prime?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. But, like...
And then they brought him back at the end of the third season because of the overwhelmingly popular response.
Damn. Wasn't Bumblebee didn't become popular until much later, right?
I mean, Bumblebee was the kid appeal character.
Yeah, but who was the person who took the matrix of leadership from Optimus when he died?
Hot Rod.
Hot Rod, yeah.
Yeah, and then became Rodimus.
Rodimus Prime, yeah.
Rodimus Prime. Hot Rod was in this movie.
Was he?
Yeah, he was the French guy. He was the French robot, Lamborghini dude.
That pisses me off. Seriously?
Yeah.
If you're going to appeal to an audience and be arrogant enough to think they're going to keep coming back, maybe not, I don't know, cheaply make the successor to Optimus Prime from the original movie. Like, I know it's a different universe, but maybe not do that.
Okay, they gave him a cool time slowing down power.
There wasn't just his, though. It was a general Autobot power.
No.
Because, well, not necessarily power, but technology. Because Optimus Prime uses it, too.
No.
Yeah, he does.
No.
Yeah, he does.
No.
He does. He does when he goes down to catch them.
No, but Hot Rod shot it. Hot Rod shot the time bubble, and then Optimus Prime goes to catch them. Because Hot Rod slowed them down from dying with the time bubble. I saw this twice.
I'm going to need proof right here. Unless there's none.
There's probably none. Unless the wiki has that in its summary.
I don't know why I'm challenging you on this. I just feel like being obviously.
No, because he has the catchphrase of "I will stop the time." That was a horrible French accent. I apologize.
No, that was about how horrible his was.
That's true, but I think the dude was actually French.
But it was so overplayed,
yes.
and unnecessarily so.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
No.
I just don't think he was never French though. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to have new attributions given.
But I will admit, I think the point you're probably getting at is the thing about him was he is French. That's all his character was. He was French and he can slow down time.
And that's it. He wasn't this, successor to Optimus Prime. He wasn't, any of that. He just And I get that he's different in this movie, and that he, if anyone would get it, it'd be Bumblebee. Yeah. But still, like some sort of having him be a challenger to Bumblebee. I know some people gave a really cheap, whoever was messing around with Bumblebee's like, you'll never be Optimus Prime. It's like
crosshairs, yeah.
Okay, if there was any sort of simple information that you were saying, that was the one point that gave over information, other than maybe during the Witwicky storyline.
Yeah.
The family tree.
Yeah.
It was just kind of so lame, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the thing, because Bumblebee has just gotten so popular because, he was popular in the original cartoon. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, he was always popular. But he became very popular with the movies. And even now in the current cartoon, he is the leader of his own team instead of Optimus Prime. Yeah. And even when Optimus Prime comes back to be on the team, there's contention because Bumblebee's used to running his shtick, used to running his thing without Prime there.
Which is cool, that new kids series. I have a little one in the family that is obsessed with Transformers. Yeah. And didn't you say the Rescue Bots and the
Prime
Robots in Disguise?
Yeah, Prime and Robots in Disguise and Rescue Bots are all the same universe.
Yeah, or at least that's what the wiki has stated.
No, that's what the creator stated.
Oh, okay.
Robots in Disguise is a direct continuation of Transformers Prime.
Bumblebee wasn't in Transformers Prime, was
Yes, he was.
Oh, okay.
He had his he didn't have his voice back in that.
He did. Okay.
And then at the end of that cartoon, he got his voice back. He
magically gets his voice back in 5.
Yes, but they actually explain how he got his voice back in that one.
In 5?
No, in the cartoon.
Oh, okay.
They explain how he got his... Yeah, that was also a thing. Bumblebee, they were trying to fix his voice box, and then he had a Siri voice, but that was funny. That was a good show.
It would make sense if it was glitching out, and then when he needed it most, because we don't know how Transformers, correct me if I'm wrong, really interact with technology like that. They could have us with muscles, if you will, when we're really strained or really in a lot, the whole idea of a mother picking up a car so her baby can get out from other that sort of thing. Okay. We don't know what can happen under stress. Yeah, but he ripped it out.
Yeah, he did rip the new voice box he got out of his throat. So I don't know.
He just ripped his vocal cords out. How is he speaking?
I'll add a little bit of information. Please. Because we do know to an extent that there are certain organs of a Transformer that cannot be manually replaced. You cannot build the transformation cog, which is the organ that they use to transform. You cannot build one of those. You cannot build a new voice box. If you can, there's probably a lot of corpses, so you could probably scavenge a new voice box, like Day Trader did. But yeah, he didn't have a voice box, and then he speaks at the end of 5, and Optimus Prime is like, "Bumblebee, I haven't heard your voice since Cybertron fell," which is wrong because Bumblebee spoke at the end of the first movie.
Did he?
Yeah, he says, "Permission to speak, sir." "Go ahead, old friend. I wish to stay with the boy."
But that was a different voice.
That was a different voice, but that was his voice. That was a different voice actor, but that was his voice. That was his genuine voice. Because there was a thing for Revenge of the Fallen, and I'm pretty sure it didn't actually make it into Revenge of the Fallen, but was in some early trailers, that Michaela has some dialogue saying, like, his voice is acting up again. Is his voice acting up again? Or something like that. To be like, oh, Bumblebee's not talking anymore, like he was at the end of the first movie, because his voice box is still screwed up. Can you please edit that out?
Sure. I mean, I've cursed plenty of times accidentally.
Oh.
But do you not want that? We can bleep things out. Anyway.
We're learning new things about this series as we go on.
Possible that, correct me if I'm wrong, because you would know more than I would, that at the beginning of end of 1, his voice box allowed him to communicate, but it wasn't his actual voice until the 2/3 through 5. And I say this in difference of, Transformer and human biology. If I'm talking right now, but I have a sore throat, I might talk like this. Like, it might be different.
Yeah.
So if his is screwed up, if it's not working correctly, he might sound different. And then at the end, at 2/3 through 5, when Optimus heard it, it's like, oh, that's his true screwed up voice, and maybe it caused him to.
But here's a very minor nitpicky detail I managed to find when I saw it the second time. Even though he has his own voice back, when he finishes a line, when he finishes his dialogue, his voice still clips out like the radio turning off, like with all of his other dialogue moment, like all of his other radio dialogue moments. It like clips out like it's still speaking through the radio, which is weird.
What exactly does he say? 2/3 through 5.
He says, "Optimus Prime, it is I, Bumblebee, your oldest friend." And then he has the sting like a bee line. And then there's some line he says to like Kate and them is like, "Good job." Or
what
something.
if he had all of those other recordings and he kept his recordings from millions of years ago? Or from when his voice box was working, he then just played recordings of or representations of his voice from there, and that was his voice. So that rather than him actually speaking there, it was just like one of his recordings, but like one of his old movie recordings or radio recordings. Yeah. But it was his own voice recording that he himself was playing.
But then we get into the discussion about why are Transformers speaking English on Cybertron?
Because then because it was a movie mechanic to allow the non-Cybertron speaking audience to hear it.
Yeah.
Michael Bay, you should pay me for this. This is such BS. Like, you could have just explained this in 2 sentences. You could have just given him a voice box that actually worked.
Look at this. We're at an hour and a half. Maybe it'll be edited down, but currently we're at an hour and a half talking about this, and we're just like, we're talking. What are we talking about?
I don't know. You finish this up.
Hold on. Is there anything else? I had notes for this.
I'm sure you did.
Is there anything of actual significance I wanted to discuss?
Man, I'm feeling these plot holes like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Well, at least I'm trying. It's really difficult.
Yeah. There are 3 swords that belong to King Arthur, supposedly in the movie. When they're going through the castle, they talk to the Anthony Hopkins character talks, and says, "Oh yes, this is the sword and mace that belong to King Arthur." And then they're at the round table, and there's 12 swords around them, and I would assume one of those is supposed to be King Arthur's sword, and then Kate has Excalibur. That's 3 Arthur swords. Are they supposed to be Arthur swords? Or are they not actually Arthur swords, and only the Excalibur one that Kate has is supposed to be? I don't know. And the last one was like, to kind of go back onto the thing of why all the Transformers were coming to Earth. It was established they were coming because Earth is Unicron. But why? Most of them don't seem to know that Earth is Unicron unless he's pulling some form of subconscious pull towards Earth for whatever reason that would serve a purpose. I don't know. You got any last thoughts, Potter?
My last thoughts are that if I was lucky enough that Michael Bay was watching this, or some people are not going to see Transformers 7 unless you do something different. They're not. If you're going to continue to be this lazy, if you're going to continue to not fill these holes with simple sentences, if you're going to give cheap 30 minutes worth of dialogue instead of 30 seconds worth of explanation, what you from a marketing perspective, I understand the idea of, well, people don't go see these movies for the plot. Well, they don't go to be confused and scratch their heads and waste 2.5 hours of their life either. So you have to adjust. You have to realize that there's a reason why this is the lowest rated, lowest grossing, basically movie that you've had so far. There is the reason. And it's not just that it's the 5th movie. It's that it's the 5th movie done this way. So change it up. Give actual explanation. Give plot and
give characters.
Character, thank you. That's what it said. That actually development that makes sense and that is purposeful. Don't just throw things to the wall and hope they stick over and over and over again, and then actually, explain something that needs no more explanation. Give something that's tangible and that matters. And yes, you can have the explosions and you can, but make it worth something. That's all I have. Ugh. It's not going to happen.
No.
But I said it.
No.
So I feel a little bit better.
The only thing that can save the Transformers film franchise is the Bumblebee spin-off movie, which isn't being produced by Michael Bay. Directed by... They've confirmed who the directors and producers are. That it's not Michael Bay, if I recall correctly. He's probably going to be back on 7, though. Anyway, sum up this review. Interesting points in this film. Not executed well. You don't need to go see this movie. I saw it because I'm a nerd and I was interested. If you haven't seen this movie and decided to watch this movie, then if you haven't seen the movie yet and decide to watch this video, I don't think you need to go see it. If you're interested in seeing it, go ahead. But I'm not going to say go out and watch it. I'm not going to say go out and see it. I'm just like, do what you want. And now I'm going to go back and watch actual good Transformers. Bye.